Hi there. Okay, good. The audio is working. Good. Anyways, hello.
Hello.
Today we're talking about dating and specifically the why behind our dating. Like, what is it? What are the real reasons why we date? Are they healthy? Are they unhealthy? Like, what is the whole thing behind that? And
How do you find what you're looking for?
yes, and let's not forget that part too. So let's jump right into that.
That's a good cup of joe.
Yes, welcome to thoughtraid, a show where we take on thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. I'm Brandon, and this is Tim, and today we're talking about dating, like the why behind the dating, the how you put it.
How do you find what you're looking for?
Exactly.
I feel like dating is this weird thing, man, where at least growing up for me, dating was like a big thing. You know, as it is with a lot of people, relationships are a big thing, but I remember there were so many things in magazines, like how to get the woman of your dreams, how to be that catch of a man, you know, and in TV shows, they were just, what's the word, Rife?
Rife sounds like it could be.
I don't know.
Full of.
Chock full.
Okay.
Chock full of dating stuff. Like I used to watch Beverly Hills 90210.
Beverly Hills.
Yes.
That's where I want to be.
But like any teen drama or any like freaking Twilight, everything's about dating, and there's so much drama around it. Like, because there's that risk of putting yourself out there, wondering if you're going to be accepted, wondering if you're going to find somebody worthy of accepting or being accepted themselves.
Worthy of being acceptable, I guess you could say. Because not everyone is ready to be dating or heading towards marriage, honestly. Like, some people need some time to work on themselves and to grow before they're ready to be in the dating scene, I think. But that can all be hard and difficult.
Well, you know, it was different for me because before we jump into this, just like some quick talking about this, I remember I wanted to date really bad, like super badly. I mean, my hormones were raging, and I was in my 20s, and all my friends were dating and getting married and stuff, and girls were just so attractive, and the concept of being a boyfriend, much less a husband, was really exciting to me. And then I would watch. I loved all the movies that talked about relationships. You know, like in Braveheart, when William Wallace took his wife out in the woods and they got married just with some priest. I was like, oh, that's so romantic. You know, I used to think about like weddings and stuff. I'm totally that person in the relationship. But I didn't date because I never thought that I could cut the mustard. You know, I never thought that I was ready. Because you said a lot of people just are not ready. And I never felt like I was ready for it. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I couldn't provide. My parents always talked to me about not having sex until I was married too, because it's really hard to raise children on your own, and if you have sex, there's always the potential for you to have a child. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, aside from the other things like getting STDs and whatnot, I didn't want to have sex and have the potential of having a child without having somebody committed to me and me committed to them together in a marriage, saying we're going to raise this child together. I just didn't want to do that to myself or the child, you know. So I never thought that I was ready for dating at all.
Yeah. I never had a really good idea of how much or not I was ready for dating for the longest time. I feel like now I'm pretty solid, but I, for the longest time, did not know and thought I was. And then I would realize somewhere down the line that I still have a ways to go. Because, I mean, to be fair, like, up until middle school, I think I mentioned this in some previous thought rays, but I was in multiple relationships as a little kid.
Are you a player, Brown?
You would assume so at the time. And that was just my life for a short bit of time before I hit middle school, and then I moved to North Carolina, and middle school hit, and then all that charm just went out the window. But not the memories of it, though. So I felt like I could have been ready for dating right at 18, and probably could have. Technically, it just might not have been the greatest at that time.
Well, dude, like thinking about dating when you're 18, looking back, I remember the stories of people when I was 18 or 17 or 16 in high school, and they were doing all sorts of stuff that I really wanted to do, you know? And I was like, man, that sounds really cool. I wish I could be a part of that world.
Oh gosh. I didn't really think about that because for me, I thought about like being the companion part of relationships growing up, but I didn't think about like the sexual side of stuff because just how I was raised and everything. Like I didn't think that was appropriate until marriage, so I didn't dwell on it or think about it.
But it still crossed your mind.
I'm sure, yes, yeah, it crossed my mind, but I was very good at just taking that thought and redirecting it somewhere else. That's just how it was for me. But I don't know. I don't think I was really ready for dating until like just 4 or 5 years ago, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is weird because when I first met you and I saw the caliber of a person that you were, I was like, wow, this is really cool. You got somebody who actually cares and listens and is intentional and is honest and is brave about a lot of things and is trying his best to become a better person every single day. I thought to myself, man, why are girls not scooping him up? Like early on in our social group, I was like, why is this man still single?
Yeah.
You know, and every indicator, and we've had talks about this before, and I know it frustrates you too. It's like every indicator plus all the very people that would be potential dates are like, Brandon is such a great catch. Well, if he's such a great catch, why aren't you catching it?
I know.
You know?
Why?
But you, even though all those claims against you were positive, and it seemed like both, me, like my opinion matters that much in this, but the very people and the very sex, I'll say, all the females, the consensus was Brandon is a catch. It's like they all thought you were ready, but you didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, the difference between me and myself 5-6 years ago was that my confidence wasn't where it needed to be. And so because I had less confidence, I also had, and hello there, Bryce, good to see you. Because my confidence wasn't there, the way that I approached women was so much more dramatic and would have scared the average woman away, to be honest.
And by dramatic, he means...
Yeah. I didn't want that in a woman, but I was that as a man.
Yeah, like a plastic bag sticking to you in the rain.
It wasn't great. So, but it's ironic. If you would have spent enough time to have dug through all that, you'd find that I still have the character at that time. You'd find that I had, the desire to grow. It's just the confidence that I had was zero. And, honestly, that just, part of that may be how I grew up, and part of that might be a byproduct of what I went through middle school and high school of chasing a girl that I was interested in for 4 years and getting zero out of that. That really tanked a lot of confidence over the time.
Did I ever tell you about, there was this girl that I went to high school with, and I was, I don't use the term madly in love. I was very infatuated because I thought she was super attractive. She was such a kind person. She had a relationship with Jesus, and back then I didn't even know what that was, but I identify it looking back. But I remember after we graduated, we'd exchanged phone numbers, and she was going to a college out on the East Coast. And so I drove out there just when I felt inspired because my mentor was like, chase your dreams, go for it, do things that other people wouldn't. And so I drove out there, and it was like a 4-hour drive. I just decided, I woke up and I went. And I called her, and she didn't answer. And I waited. I went there with the express purpose of seeing her. And then I waited like half an hour, called her again, no answer. And I texted her. I was like, hey, I'm in town doing some business stuff. It would be cool to get lunch with you. And she never responded. And I'm like, and after like 3 hours, I was like, okay, I'm going to go home. This was a bust. I got my answer. But dude, I totally feel that. There were so many people I chased and like wanted a relationship, and it just would not happen.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Anyways, so I want to dive into this. The topic for today is dating. How the heck do you find what you're looking for? And the first question I want to position to you guys, and I kind of want to talk about with you, Brandon, is what are you really looking for? Because from my perspective, when we've... Actually, I don't know if this was true when we first met, but I used to have this locket that I wore. And I'm really sappy about stuff like this. But I had this locket because I remember my mentor talking to me about God and stuff. And I didn't believe in God. I was agnostic, positioned more towards being open towards Christianity, but I was agnostic. I was like, all right, God, if you're there, here's what I want. You know, because I leaned more towards a prosperity gospel back then, because it's like, oh, this sounds good. I have this God that gives me everything that I want. I just have to ask for it. This sounds fantastic. Why would somebody not want to do this? You know, but that's where I had a proclivity towards that back then. Mm-hmm. So I wrote down 40 things I was looking for in a locket or on a sheet of paper, put it in this locket, and I wore it, right? And every day.
I think I vaguely remember that now.
Do you really?
I think you might have had that at a time that I met you back in 2014.
Interesting.
I feel like it was like a glass. Was it glass? And had like a rubber band around it? Yep, I do remember that. Yes.
Yep. So I wore that, and I was like, God, if you're there, this is what I want. And it was everything from what she looked like, her family background, her profession, the things that she liked, everything that I thought that I wanted. But I'm just thinking, like, why did I want that stuff, man? I wasn't chasing an actual person. I was chasing a concept. So, like, I guess, what are you really looking for? Is it sex, validation, connection? Are you looking to fulfill expectations like I was? Like, when you think about dating, Brandon, what is it that your mind immediately goes to that you're looking for?
I mean, I think even from early on till now, I've always been looking for a companion, someone who can be with me and could be strong in areas that I'm otherwise weak in, that I can share my life with, and someone who I could be a friend with. And that's not me being cliche. That's just simply how it's always been. Even when I was a little kid, I was looking for companionship with other girls. That's what I wanted. Man, I didn't really think about the sex aspect of it or stuff of that nature, although I thought about kissing and stuff of that nature. But
so what was it about kissing that was so enticing that sex was not?
It's just physical touch.
Well, sex is physical touch.
It is, but I'm thinking, I'm going way back to when I was a kid, and that was not on my radar at that point. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really, once I went into middle school and high school and knew what it was, I don't know, even then I really didn't think about it. It was not something that I would allow myself to think about. So that the most physical that I would ever allow myself to think about was holding her hand or kissing her. Mm-hmm. But what I've been looking for from then to now is still, and will probably continue to be, just companionship, to have someone there with me to share my life with, someone that I can take walks with, someone that I can enjoy things with, talk about stuff with, etc. Like that.
I think you're the exception. One of the exceptions, though, because so many people I talk to about relationship, it's usually connected to one of the four things I mentioned, which are validation, connection. Connection is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Fulfilling expectations and sex, like Tinder, for instance. We were originally going to talk about dating apps. I just didn't feel right about that because I honestly don't know much about them. I've never done them.
I do.
Yeah. But
if that's a topic that you want us to talk about, then I'm glad to talk about my experiences with, I actually never did Tinder, but Hinge or Christian Mingle or eHarmony or Facebook even.
Bumble.
I've never heard of that.
The Bagel Meets Coffee or something like that.
I have not heard of that. Oh, actually, I have heard of that, but I've never used it.
Yeah.
But that's if you want us to. Otherwise,
Yeah. Well, just looking at these four things, what was I really what was I looking for? And I remember growing up, I loved Disney movies. I loved Pixar movies. I loved all that stuff specifically, I loved movies and I loved stories, especially because they take your heart on a journey from, the exploration process to, oh, this might be a thing process, to it being ripped away and then the man fighting to get it back. That always that got me. And that's why I liked video games so much, because, men have this spirit where it's like, we want to overcome something. We want to slay that dragon, There's a pretty decent book called Wild at Heart out there. I agree with some of it. I don't agree with all of it, but it's one of those Christian psyche type books explaining like the different genders and what drives us and stuff. It's not applicable to everybody, so I would just read it with some discernment. But it talks about how every man, it suggests that every man wants a dragon to slay, a quest to go on, and a damsel to save. And it also talks about, which can be seen as kind of sexist, but it suggests that women are wired to want to be a part of a journey, want something to nurture, and a knight in shining armor, right? And once again, that doesn't apply to everybody. No, and there's a little bit of both. Like I like my wife to be a knight in shining armor sometimes.
My hero.
My hero. But yeah. The concept for me growing up was just like this romantic love. This thing that I thought that I could be like, oh, Fabio. My chest hair showing, my hair blowing in the wind, having slain the dragon, standing on my spoils, and then at the end, marrying my wife and whatever. Like, that was never attached to an actual person. It was more of a concept. And I really wanted that, which was so strange. Like, I wanted a concept. I guess that's not too strange.
You wanted more of a concept than the actual experience.
Yeah. And it's weird because I see, like, just thinking about all these things, mine was expectation, right? Some people pursue relationships and dating for validation, for sex, and just for connection. Like, I've spoken to people in the past year that go out and hire prostitutes just so they can have some kind of physical connection with a woman. But it's like, if none of this is tied to an actual person, and I want just the experience, and I want just the feeling of it, that's almost mutually exclusive to what marriage and relationship is actually about. And I think moving into the second part of this, why don't we ever find what we're looking for? I think when we focus so much on the process of dating and focus on getting fulfillment from that person, nobody can ever do that.
You're looking specifically more for the experience of dating rather than the actual person that you're trying to date.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like
it's not.
There's so many chick flicks where the women get together and they talk about the guys, and they're like, "Oh, honey, tell me about him." And then she explains, "Oh, well, he's like this. He works this job," and she's like, "Oh, that's a red flag." All these checks, the pros and the cons, pros and cons, and it's like, I know with a lot of the people that I've engaged with in the past several years, especially young adults. Mm-hmm. It's really tough to make a decision. Like, even for me, I have an amazing wife. Mm-hmm. But it was really tough for me to make that decision and say, okay, well, is this what I want to commit to? Because that's a choice, because any relationship, the feeling of love might be there. Like the first time you hold hands, the first time you kiss, the first time, all the first, right? It's really exciting. It's exhilarating. But when that newness wears off,
and that's where the commitment has to settle in. Yeah,
and you have to start doing the work.
Yep.
It's like, what are you selling out to once you've already got that feeling? Are you person hopping, trying to get feeling after feeling after feeling?
Yeah. We have a question coming in from Seth. He says, at least it looks like a question. We all do need something, or why else would we add someone to our life? That's the question. Why would we add? So we all do need something, or why else would we add someone to our life? Make sure we're reading that correctly.
Yeah. I'll actually tackle that
kind of a statement.
In the next part. You're reading my mind, Seth.
You're ahead of us, Seth. Hold on.
Yeah. What are you thinking so far, Brandon?
I'm just thinking specifically about really taking a moment and defining the why behind why you're going into a relationship. Because, again, like, it's not... I feel like a lot of people get in trouble because they're looking for the relationship to fill a need so much more so than it is about the person they're actually trying to be in a relationship with. Because if, like, yes, I want companionship. Mm-hmm. I want someone in my life. I want to experience that. I don't want to leave this earth without that experience. But at the same time, and we talked about this, once I'm in a relationship, what's next? If it's just about being in a relationship, that's my only reason, is like, I see all my friends in relationship. I see all my friends getting married. Why am I not married? I need to do that. Then once I finally, find someone who gels well with me and I've obtained the relationship, if the goal is the relationship, well, then what's next after that? Because the relationship, the person's still there, and I feel like you wanted to find that why and really dig to the place of, do I need this relationship, first of all? Because if I'm just wanting a relationship because I see other people in relationships, because I see my friends and family in that, because it seems like people are happier from that, like, that's great and all, but that doesn't mean that is for you. Like, a relationship has its own baggage that it brings along with it, because there's a human that's involved in the process too, you and the other person, hopefully just two. Not mentioning people that play around, but that's complicated. That's complex, and so you want to make sure that it's not just a matter of, I'm here to check off the box of relationship, but that, here's a person in my life that I really enjoy, and I would like for them to continue to be in my life, no matter what, because I appreciate who they are and the way they think and everything, and I'd love to continue on through life with them. I don't know, just to shift more towards the other person, so that way when there's good times, you can enjoy that together, and when there's bad times, I'm already here for you, not necessarily for the accolade of a relationship.
Well, I'm just thinking about our friendship, because when we became friends, we didn't become friends on the premise of, I'm just looking for a friend. No. I have an opening, I have a vacancy, friend wanted.
You want this?
We were, with you and me, real quick, I was looking at my notes from last night. We have a young adults group that we go to, and they were talking about Hebrews, specifically about how Hebrews is all about the supremacy of Jesus and the idea of a better hope. And the term is thrown around event-based living, where we flop from event to event to event with like all of our excitement, all of our forward motion.
Like, I can't wait to get married. Okay. I can't wait to have a child. Okay. I can't wait to have a better job. Like, I'm going to be happy once I'm in a marriage, once I have a better job. I'm going to be happy once this XYZ event happens.
Like, I'm going to be happy once I actually get a friend that gives a rip about me. Like, if that was the basis of our friendship, when you are in your lowest of lows, or when I'm in the lowest of my lows, it's like, okay, well, they can no longer perform the job duty, because that's what it is. Especially like going back to the first part where we were talking about the reasons what people are really looking for in a relationship. Fulfilling your expectations, providing you with connection, validating you, offering you physical stuff. It's like, what happens when the person's no longer doing that, or they're in a season of weakness and they can't provide that? Is it like, okay, what's no longer, I'm going to find somebody else that can get this? And that happens a lot, especially in marriages, like you get into that motion where you're getting into the sense of, or the routine of event-based living, and there's no event coming up, and you're like, the spark is just gone. Yeah. The spark is gone. I need to find it oh man, I'm starting to feel it with this person, or let me get this emotional high from them. Let's just go out and get drinks. It's just oral sex. It's okay. And then like it spirals, and it's like, honey, I got to leave you because I don't feel it anymore, and I feel it with this person. You go over here and that cycle repeats itself.
Yeah, all that stands to prove is that you weren't really in it for the person. You were more so in it for what you could get out of the person to fulfill your desire of relationship. And that's just not going to work. That's not going to be satisfying. That cannot be satisfying. Yes, it will for a period of time, but all that does is that you get a little bit of gratification for a whole lot of pain, either personally or it's going to fall onto someone else's head. Because that's the thing. Some people, they will go from one relationship into another, one physical relationship into another physical relationship, and they will never see the ramifications of that ever. Because of just the grace of God in that situation. Doesn't mean it's right. It's just for whatever reason nothing happens. And then another person, but it doesn't mean that nothing happens at all. Or then another person, the minute they do that, boom, there's immediate ramifications for it. They get an STD or something of that nature. But regardless if you don't see any effects of it in your life, or you do see effects in your life, that kind of living where I'm just going from one person to meet my needs to another person to meet my needs is going to have ripple effects beyond you. Because whether it affects you directly, it is going to affect someone else. No one lives in a vacuum. Like, you go from this person to another person to meet needs. That person has a kid. Now you move on to another person. What are the ramifications on that kid? What are the ramifications on that person and their personal value?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Now I'm getting a little bit more...
Okay. So when I do weddings, the concept that I always tease out, and I don't do traditional weddings because it's like I really challenge the couples, because marriage it's not a feeling, it's not something that you just get into because it's the thing to do. It's a choice, and you're going to be tested when that feeling goes away, and it comes time to roll your pants up and roll your sleeves up and get to work and get in the mud with people. It's like, are you going to choose that? Because if you go to 1 Corinthians 13 where it defines love, it says love is patient and kind. It doesn't say it's only patient and kind when things are easy. It's like love is patient and kind. It doesn't hold records of wrongs. It's not puffed up. It doesn't try and make itself bigger than the other. That's what that means. It doesn't rejoice when bad things happen to the other person. And I mean, the definition is there. And I'm just thinking to myself, if I'm just trying to get from somebody in a relationship, all these things, whatever they are that you're looking for, if you're just trying to receive something out of it instead of seeing that person as a person and having the ebb and flow of give and take, it's like, well, what do you actually chase? Or do you actually want to be in a relationship? Or because the title of the stream today is dating, how to find what you're looking for. I had a client a while back that was just asking me about relationships and how to get in relationships with women. And I was like, what exactly do you want? And
what does it mean?
Yeah, and they were just talking about different things like we were talking about connection and validation and whatnot. And I was like, well, if that's, and I was just very blunt with him. And mind you, I am a Christian life coach. I said, why don't you just go get a prostitute? I was playing the devil's advocate, and I was just like using hyperbole, of course. That's not what I was recommending. I was like, come on, dude, that's kind of, if that's really all you want, it's as ridiculous as just doing this, right? Because you take personal accountability and responsibility and love off the table. That's what it's reduced to. Oof. Right? Because when you go out and you're just pursuing somebody for physical whatever, and it's like, let me buy them, that's prostitution, essentially. It's an exchange of goods and services. It's not a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need validation from a relationship to be okay. Mm-hmm. Like, it helps, yes, but you don't need it. You can be validated through living a good life without a relationship, just as much as you can be with someone, maybe actually a little bit more than just having one singular person for that validation. Yeah. Honestly. Like, validation comes to those who live honorable lives, and it comes without being without requesting said validation. Mm-hmm. Naturally. It may take time, but it does come. There's a validation that kind of comes through that. But you don't need a relationship to get validation.
Yeah. It sure helps, though.
It does. I'm not saying it doesn't, because otherwise we wouldn't have people wanting that in a relationship if it didn't. Yeah. That's the thing. Seth is having a lot to say. He says, it hits different when your Minecraft girlfriend puts the beds next to each other. That's the kind of validation I crave.
Well, Seth, you're in luck because my buddy just started a Minecraft server. You should come play with us. But what was that he said after it?
And he said the spark is gone equals someone is predictable and probably not growing.
So let's move into the third part, because you said two things that touch on where I want to wrap this up.
I want to just make sure I'm not missing it. Okay, good.
So I have a concept, and if I could put this in a book and sell it, I would. Okay. I feel like this is a concept that is good. I feel like it's a concept that answers everybody's wonderings about dating. Like, how do I do this? And it's as simple as this. I think that dating should not be a focus, and like relationships shouldn't be a focus. I think they should just be more serendipity.
I mean, friendship could be a focus, maybe.
Well, even that. If you try, like, And guys, I am a living testimony of this. I tried so hard at relationship, and when, and I mean relationship like dating, romantic friendships, all of it across the board. I tried really hard because I never thought I was good enough to just have it naturally, right? And so I would read all these magazines, and I would follow models that I saw in media, and that people, like I remember in 7th grade we watched Casper. You remember
the friendly ghost?
Yeah, there was a real life. No, what am I trying to say? An adaptation with real people in it. What am I trying to say? There's a term for that. Anyway, we watched it, and the protagonist was some handsome young kid or whatever, and I was in 7th grade, so like all the girls were like, "Oh, he's so hot. He's so hot." And I was like, well, what's wrong with me? Nobody's doing that about me. Like, I need to be like this kid. So I was thinking, okay, I need to have straight blonde hair. I need to have lighter skin. You know, I need to have a mansion. Okay, great. That's all I need. And then girls will quest after me. And there was always something new that I had to fabricate, right? And because I felt like as I was, people it didn't garner the same response. I was like, okay, I have to be all these things. And with friends too, I looked to the people that had friendships, and I was like, I have to be like that because what I'm not doing is not working. And so I was so focused on what I was lacking. And this is scriptural too, guys, and I can give you examples. But when you're so focused on what you're lacking, you lose all the authenticity. You know, you lose sight of how to obtain that in a healthy way. Because in all my relationships, I tried to be something that I wasn't. You know, I had to talk myself into the relationship. Then I had to I had to convince that person that I was what I was talking myself into. You know, and so in my friendships too, like there are a few people in my life that just make me nervous. And whenever I'm near them, that side of me comes out again, and it's like, crap, I'm just so focused on making them like me that I'm not being authentic. And yet the best relationships I've had in my life have come just through me chasing something else.
Right.
So what I'm sorry, do you want to say something?
Well, I made me think about that. I also have a type of people that kind of that bring out the worst in me, the neediness in me.
Yeah.
Usually very confident people would do that, you know, in general, because it's just like, oh, this guy or girl, whatever, they have it all together. And I don't know, it's just, they have the answers and stuff of that nature. And me being a perfectionist would love to be around someone who has all the answers so I can increase in my perfection.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Trying to live up to their standards, even though their standards may not actually be best for me.
Yeah, so here's what I want to position you guys. Well, actually, something I want to ask you. Is your destination a person, or is it somewhere that you're going? Because every single time in my life when a person was my destination, it's failed. Because nobody can live up to the expectations that I want for a lifelong commitment. Even my wife, and she's like one of the closest people to perfection that I know. You know? And Brandon too, I guess.
Oh.
But here's the thing, man. Like, when you get in a relationship with people, you're going to see the nasty side of them eventually. Because everybody's got a nasty side. And the closer you get, you start seeing those things, and you just have to realize, oh, this isn't what I signed up for, you know? But like with my wife, Ariane, I remember I had just exited a relationship where everything that was on that locket that I was telling you guys about, that was this person, right? I'm not even kidding, guys. There were 40 things in that locket. Every single attribute, trait, quirk, whatever that I wanted in a person was in this person that I was in a relationship with.
Ironic.
Yeah. And then when that, I don't want to say crashed and burned, when it ended, I'll just say it ended. It really hurt. You know? And then that's when Brandon started speaking more into my life and was just like, hey, dude, you know, what you're actually looking for is love, right? Not a feeling, but genuine, you have value type of love, right? And a love where somebody gives themselves up for you. And it made sense to me because all the stuff I had learned in my life that I was questing after, and all the stuff that was devoid in my life, which was the same thing, just I I was expecting that from a real life person. That's who Jesus was, right? And so I started leaning into that. And as I started pursuing Jesus, God started working on my heart, just with all these things. Like, Tim, you don't need to be a facade. Tim, your value is not in money. Tim, your value is not in your vocation. It's not in how well you can trick people into thinking that you have value. Your value is inherent. Let me give that to you so it's abundant. You don't have to manufacture it, right? And the more I leaned into that, the more stuff that was in me all along started coming out. Just giving to people, being there for people, encouraging people, just the overflow. Like, I remember reading scriptures and people telling me about Jesus and stuff, and it was just all this this Christian jargon, all the like Christianese, all the recitation of biblical truth and whatnot, like press down, give, and it'll be pressed down, shaken up, overflowing, and returned to you tenfold. I'm like, but when I actually started feeling love from Jesus, I was like, okay, God, how can I give that back? And I just started a forward motion in my life where my life actually started having more purpose instead of just acquisition, right? And it was along that path that I met somebody else who was also on that same path, And there were a lot of people that were on that path, but this person started identifying themselves as somebody that made a sensible fit in my life, who was after the same things that I was. They weren't my focus, and they weren't the fulfillment of what my heart really longed for, but they were, going back to Seth's question, what was that he said earlier?
He was saying, well, we all do need something, or why else would we add someone to our life?
Exactly, right? Because Paul even says in I forget which part of scripture. It was Paul saying it in the Bible. He said that it's honestly best that you not marry, right? He said it's probably best because relationships are really hard, right? And you can make people an idol very easily. But when you come together, there's that scripture that talks about a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. It's two people with God in the center united.
Two
right?
people, one God.
And then there's also that Proverbs that says iron sharpens iron, you know? There's so much that talks about this scripturally, but basically when two people come together, not to fulfill themselves, but to fulfill a purpose on their heart, it's like when one person is feeling down, the other person is there saying, hey, this isn't who you are. You can do better than this. Here, let me meet you where you're at and carry you for a short ways until you can get back on your feet. And it's the ebb and flow in the relationship. And it's not saying this person needs to be everything. No, they need to support me and I need to support them. And that's done through actually enacting 1 Corinthians 13, which is loving the other person and receiving it, you know? But marriage requires a goal bigger than you. But what happens when that person is your goal?
And then end of the road. Where do we go from here? You have to find another goal entirely.
Yeah, you just get static, man. Yeah. Like, well, just thinking about earlier, what are you really looking for? You know, if you follow the Disney model, I always wonder what the ever after looks like. Because they slay the dragons. They, at the end, you know, they have all the fanfare and the wedding in the castle, and everybody's all happy. What about after the fact? You know, what's like the purpose on their lives? They just exist?
I think it was, I'm pretty sure it's our friend Walker. Do you know Walker?
Walker Anthony? Walker, Texas Ranger?
Not Texas Ranger, but he, anyways, there's a guy that I know whose name is Walker who goes to my church. He was talking about actually doing like a role play type of thing that's like what happened with these fairy tale characters after their happy ever after.
Said Shrek 2 and 3 happened. Which were bombs, by the way. Just want to point that out.
Okay, look, 2 was not a bomb. 3 was. But 2 was not a bomb, okay? It maybe didn't have all the pizzazz of Shrek 1, but it definitely, you can't miss the very ending when they're singing I Will Survive, and they have that whole scene with the fairy godmother. Like, that was gold, okay? I love that, okay? 3, terrible. 4, was that the one with the... Was that the one, not the Pied Piper, but what was the guy? Rumpelstiltskin. Was that 4?
I don't know. I quit watching.
That one was okay, but like 2 was not trash.
2 was okay. I like the concept, but it's like, man.
See, Seth agrees.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, but just thinking about the American dream, you go to school, you get an education, and then you go to more school, get a better education. You land the job with a 401k. You find somebody in college, your sweetheart, marry your high school sweetheart. You just pick somebody up somewhere. Then you get married. Then you get the house and the picket fence and the kids and the dog. And
I feel like the reason why the Bible also says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing is because, at least with marriage, the goals become more linear in trajectory. Like, you get married, then you have kids, then you raise those kids, and then they go to college, and then they have grandkids, and you're there with your grandkids. So there's like a general predictable path with that. Mm-hmm. But again, it should not be what you're about to have me call in and start a 20-minute debate on Shrek 2. But it's still, I don't think it should be the ultimate goal, because again, what happens if the person dies? What happens when you are in a relationship and things are going south? Like, again, defining your why is very important when it comes to relationships. If it's anything, I feel like that is about pure self-serving. I want to have a relationship because in this relationship I will hopefully be validated, and I will have sex, and I will have, all these different things with the person. Then all that stuff can fade. The Bible talks about beauty fades, mm-hmm. And it's reality. We get older and things sag, and that just happens. I cannot stop.
Things like what, Brandon?
The things that otherwise were once very elastic and beautiful. What are you going to do then?
Well, just thinking about how some of the saddest times in my life, like I love looking forward to things. I love the event-based living. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody does, right? But I used to go skating all the time. And I remember when I'd go to the skating rink, like getting all hot, doing my hair and like making. I had really spiky hair back then. My fresh clothes, my skates looked really awesome because I had really cool skates back then. You would arrive and you hear the of the skating rink. You get there, you see the smells, and then you like behold all the new people, and it's like, man, there's so many people. I wonder how many. Okay, there's girls over here. And then, the excitement of being in the event was so fun. But towards the end of the night, everything would start winding down. I remember it'd be time to get in my car and go home, and I'd always be so sad. And that carried on, like when parties would end, or like dates would end, or like on the downslope of things. Once the event has happened, like after a party, like all those parties we had at the Friendship. Mm-hmm. The Friendship was a house I used to live in. After the fact, after I had gone home, all the fun was had. Then there was the cleanup, mm-hmm. and then there was quiet. And quiet seasons are really good. But if you look at somebody's life and you've already done all the events, you got married, you had kids, you got the house, and you're just in retirement or whatever, and you're just existing. Oh, the Braves are playing Tuesday. Oh, we're having meatloaf on Friday. Oh, Wheel of Fortune's on, and you get into that routine of life. It's like, well. Are you guys married just to enjoy a routine of the same thing? Or are you married because there's a purpose on your life where you're pushing and growing and encouraging, and you're actually accomplishing something bigger than your marriage? But I think we can be really short-sighted in dating, thinking that what we're looking for is what we're actually desiring. And that's why a lot of times it just doesn't make sense. Like, we engage in perfection. There's always something better, the what ifs, and it's really hard for us to sell out to things when we know that there's going to be an end of the event. But what if we get in a relationship with somebody and we know that there's a purpose on both of our lives, and we're just like joining together because we're going somewhere, and this is a lifelong destination, and it's not going to end? That's a completely different concept.
Yeah, because we technically, I don't know, what God is teaching me and making me focus on now is that even though I have a tangible body and a tangible mind, if you wanted to, do anything with it, it's there. I'm still not so limited as those two things. I am a spirit. And that spirit is going to persist beyond the ability for this body to persist. And he's having me focus in on that when it comes to how I deal with my own self, because even though my body wants whatever is quickest and easiest and feels the best, and my soul is having a hard time making up its mind between quickest and easiest and best and what's supernatural, I'm still a spirit. And I get to make decisions with my spirit regardless if my mind understands it or my body wants it at all. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And that's one of the most healthiest thinkings I'm being invited into right now I've ever had, because it's like we spend thoughtraid. We spend our time talking about thoughts and better ways of thinking about them, because if you can control what you allow to swim around in your mind and to have that more aligned towards joy and your identity in Christ and healthiness and growth, it's a lot easier to physically do things you would otherwise not want to do, like, doing a better job at work, getting up earlier, working out, whatever. It's a lot easier to motivate yourself to do things once you move past the mental hurdles. But I think it's been really great for me to really think about, again, living forever, supernatural, I'm a spirit, because then that's been helping me make even more strides towards having my thoughts line up where they need to be and taking control over them and looking at things from a better perspective. Because yes, this is not just all here. This is not about how many physical experiences can I get out of this person before I die. No, they're going to be here and they're going to continue on, and you're going to continue on. And it would be great to have a nice start into eternity with that person rather than I did everything I could to just milk them dry so I can satisfy myself. I don't know. I don't know if that was the direction you're heading in, but that's the way my mind went.
I'll give you 2 points.
Okay.
But guys, what are your thoughts on dating? What are you looking for, and how has that worked out for you? I'm really curious. Let us know in the comments or shoot us an email at thoughtraid@gmail.com. I think
I read that out in my mind. thoughtraid@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
That's okay. Dating can be hard. But I would challenge you just to sit and ask yourself, okay, well, what am I really trying to get out of this? And who can really provide that to me? And if you're in a place where you're in deficits, whether it's a validation deficit, a connection deficit, an expectation deficit, and you're just getting jaded and you're getting hard-hearted because it feels like people are constantly letting you down, I would just take some time to think about, what's the purpose on your life? What are you actually trying to achieve? What kind of impact are you trying to have? Because, like it or not, your life is purposed to have some kind of impact on other people, right? Your life isn't just to exist, and your life isn't just to, wake up tomorrow, go to the gym, make a little bit of money, play a few video games, watch, finish all your series. You're not meant to just exist, right? If you go back to Genesis, for instance, and it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, this still applies. We are given this as a domain that we are expected to reclaim dominion over. It was given to us. We're supposed to work the grounds, and that doesn't mean just plant plants. We're supposed to make sure the environment's healthy, make sure people get what they need, make sure that we provide some kind of service or something to the best of our ability with our strengths. To do something, because we're all part of a body, right? We're not just insular people. We're not just isolated people. And so if you're in that frame of mind and you're desiring a relationship, I would caution you. You're not going to find what you're looking for from other people, but you are going to find the people that you need to be equipped with on the path to doing all that stuff. So once you figure that out and you're going in that direction, you're going to identify friends that will join you. You're going to identify that mate. I guarantee you, if you spend 40 years of your life chasing something that's bigger than you, you're going to find somebody that is attractive, that likes the same things that you do, that's going to sell out to you just as much as you're going to sell out to them. I promise you, it's going to happen. We're designed for relationship.
Yeah.
But just don't lose hope. But just stay focused on what your purpose to do. And if you don't know that, reach out. We'd love to talk to you about it.
Yes, of course. So I want to thank you guys for watching. We broadcast every week on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll see you again tomorrow. We'll be playing Overwatch with Jared and possibly also Noah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I can see far away from where I've been. He says, I see a potential. I see a potential in my eyes. I see a potential. I never lost sight of the reason why you're alive. You're alive. You're alive. We sing Jesus.